Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Dorothy Knight, who is an embodiment coach, someone who I've chatted with before and been really inspired by a lot of her words of wisdom, posted about a book that she read called, I think it was Loving People Who Are Hard to Love. And then she did some posts and some workshops, and now she's doing a retreat on forgiveness and unconditional love. And she's posted about that. So I thought, you know what? It'd be really interesting post-Valentine's Day, I guess, to check in with Dorothy Knight and ask her about loving people that are hard to love and forgiveness and unconditional love and what that's all about. Dorothy Knight, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure. So this workshop that you do and this retreat that you do that's about forgiveness. Tell me a little bit about what forgiveness is, why it's important, what you do, interesting.
Well, forgiveness has naturally evolved into a huge piece of any client work that I've done over the last few years because it's something most of us struggle with. And as human beings, it's something that doesn't come naturally to us. It's not very easy to forgive somebody, especially if they've caused us hurt, they've caused us pain, disappointment, and especially trauma. And when that trauma hits really deep, it stays in the body. So the body never forgets and it holds on to that memory on a cellular level until we actually acknowledge it, work through it, reconcile it, and release it. So that's why forgiveness is such a powerful component of our personal growth, of our personal evolution, because whenever we hold on to resentment or bitterness or anger towards somebody, and oftentimes even towards ourselves, it takes up a lot of space in our day-to-day operations, in our day-to-day being. Like even on a cellular level, it takes up space in our body. And we can feel that because it manifests itself in all kinds of physical symptoms.
Like what?
Oh my gosh, like heart problems, digestive problems, back problems, headaches, depression, like emotional triggers too. So those
Not
are
forgiving, just resenting someone or resenting what happened to you. You think can have all those physical impacts on you.
Yes. And even like deeply rooted anger often is not transmuted, sorry, it physically manifests into something like cancer. Cancer is anger festering in the body and the body attacking itself because of that anger. So that's why it's really
Hold on. Seriously, you think cancer, you like wish cancer upon yourself by being resentful?
Yes. Anyone that I've worked with that has been diagnosed with cancer has some sort of forgiveness thing, boundary barrier that they haven't resolved, and it manifests as some form of cancer. Every single cancer person that I have worked with that has either had cancer, knows somebody that has cancer, that is a very, very powerful and significant trigger.
Okay. So let's come back to this book. We'll come back to your workshop in a minute, but let's come back to this book. Can you love people that are hard to love? Should you love people that are hard to love?
Yes. Because when we don't love people that are difficult to love, it's because we're not able to love on ourselves, in the sense that we're not loving on those unresolved parts of ourselves. So for example, if we had a father that neglected us, that abandoned us, that didn't support us, so this is like that daddy complex, right? This will translate later into a woman's relationships. So she's likely going to attract a partner that's going to treat her the same way, because that is how she has understood the love dynamic between herself and her father. That's the love I receive. My love is conditional. So then this pattern plays itself out in all of her relationships until she becomes aware of it and can break that pattern, right? So that pattern involves loving on ourselves, because where did we feel in our lives that our needs were not met, that we felt rejected, that we felt abandoned? And often that's when those memories, those trigger points, trail back all the way to those first intimate relationships that we have with our parents, with our family. So we all have a family story. And I find that the people that are most difficult to love are the ones that are sometimes closest to us, specifically family members. And we all have that somebody in our family that, oh, they really make it difficult to love, but you're family and I have to love you. And there's a difference between having to love somebody. You don't have to do anything, but it's a level of forgiveness where you let go of what has happened in that dynamic or why they make it so difficult to love. But that comes from being self-aware. It comes from releasing whatever that energy was. And honestly, some people hurt us intentionally, some people hurt us unintentionally. Regardless of what it is, everyone operates from their own inner wounded child. So it's not that it's always directed to you to hurt you. A lot of it's unintentional too, right? So it's about learning how to tune into why that happened, that situation. What was the lesson within it? Like we've talked about this before. There's always a lesson and a blessing within every situation. And when people do things to us, like we all work for, like we treat, not you treat each other, but we work as mirrors for one another. So when someone reflects something, projects something onto us that hurt us, it's again triggering something within us that's unresolved. So that's what leads us to coming into self-awareness and working through forgiveness.
You know, it's interesting. I saw a interview with Jane Fonda on CNN, and it was about her career and everything else. But they got on to talking about her father, Henry Fonda, and her relationship with her father. And she's like 85, 86 years old. And she said that she had just come to terms with her relationship with her father just a few months before he passed, and regretted that it took so long. And then she talked about that famous movie on Golden Pond that she starred in with her father, and they were characters, and they had the same problem in the movie, that they had unresolved issues that happened. Just, they resolved finally when both of them came to accept that they actually did love each other. They just, for some reason, grated on each other their whole lives. And he was in the movie in his 80s, and I guess he had just turned 80, and she was obviously in middle age at the time. And I think you're right that there are a lot of unresolved issues in families, and people wait way too long until close to the deathbed sometimes to resolve them. Anyway, fascinating conversation. We're going to take a break and come back, and I'm going to ask Dorothy Knight about this conditional love versus unconditional love, and what's that all about? Because that's an issue that I think needs to be discussed. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I thought that it would be really sort of appropriate for the week after Valentine's Day to be chatting with Dorothy Knight, who really is quite a intuitive, empathetic, interesting person. You call yourself a coach in numerous different areas, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that in a minute. But I wanted to reach out to you because you've posted recently a lot about forgiveness and unconditional love. And it seems to me in social media and in courses and in suggestions that the world's right now all about conditional love. And there seems to be so much comments about, well, leave him, or he's a narcissist, or she's a narcissist, or toxic relationships, or, suggestions about how to get over things rather than how to improve things. And and comments on checklists and I want someone that's got these 5 traits or these 10 traits or the bucket list or things like that. Why is unconditional love something that you're suggesting?
Because it is a transcendental love in the spiritual sense, where it liberates us. And a lot of us, most of us, haven't been raised to even know what that is. We maybe are fortunate and blessed to discover that love later on in life. We're all born in that love, right? We're born in unconditional love. We are so pure and so innocent. And then We grow up, we start having attachments, we start having projections, we start having stories attached to us as a human being. And we buy into those stories. And those stories become our reality, our narrative that we play out every single day, often on subconscious and unconscious levels. We think we're conscious of things, but we're really not. We're operating through what we believe to be true, based on experience, based on what we've inherited, even too. So, conditional love, and this is why it's so funny, like Valentine's Day is the hallmark holiday for conditional love. It is so like, you do this for me, you buy this for me, you spoil me with this. I expect, I expect, I expect. And I think love should be celebrated every single day. Every day is Valentine's Day. And we are in that love, especially when we love on ourselves first and foremost. So if we have conditions in our relationships, it means we have conditions in our own relationship with ourselves. So we have to start always, we come back full circle and we come back to the story that we are carrying within ourselves. What is our love story? What beliefs do we have about love? What beliefs do we have about relationships? What beliefs do we have about the opposite gender and partnerships, those dynamics? Because it will be determined by the relationships that we have with ourselves. What boundaries do we have? Do we let people step over those boundaries? Do we love on ourselves enough? Or do we overgive of ourselves energetically? Or do we not allow ourselves to receive love on the flip side, right? Maybe someone wants to express their love in a relationship, but we don't know how, because we've never received that love in childhood, for example. And it's overwhelming, it's overpowering, it's too good to be true. We don't believe in love, a lot of us do. We don't believe in a happy ever after.
We don't believe in happy. I thought that's what everyone wants.
They want it, but they don't want to do the work to have the happy ever after.
I thought love just happens. You say it needs work?
Love, okay, there's lust and then there's love. So when we fall in lust for somebody, that's the innate instinct. It's evolutionary for us to be attracted to somebody. Chemistry is high. There's a very high level of attraction and physical stimulation, but that eventually is going to wear off, right? If we don't put the work into it down the road. Like, look at how many couples, for example, just don't try anymore for one another.
They don't try anymore. So, Dorothy, it just seems that, you know, everyone is focused on conditional love with check marks and checklists and you know, you only get stuff from me if you give stuff to me. Like, how can you be arguing for unconditional love?
Yeah, so coming out of Valentine's Day, it's such a classic example of a hallmark holiday that has implemented all of these conditions in terms of defining what love is supposed to look like and what we're supposed to expect from it. So when we buy into that kind of ideology and commercialism behind love that's packaged so beautifully, it really sets us up for disappointment, because that's not what love is at all, right? Love is the unexpected. And it has no conditions. It's unbound. It's free. It's like having a bird in a cage, and you open that cage to let it fly free, and that bird will come back. That bird will come back. But if we suddenly put all these restrictions, impose all these conditions, that bird's going to feel suffocated. It's going to want to break free. And when we let them out, they may not come back. And I think a lot of people have that kind of dynamic in their relationship where there are either spoken or unspoken conditions. So we have expectations maybe as a partner and they're unmet, but maybe that's because we haven't expressed what we need in a relationship, because we haven't been able to express those needs in previous relationships.
But if you're expressing needs, aren't you creating that birdcage?
Well, but what is that need? Is a box of chocolates really going to feel better than having a heart-to-heart open conversation about what's really happening inside of you? So we're not allowing ourselves to be raw, to be vulnerable, to be authentic and honest in our emotions. It's much easier to package things in pretty things. And a lot of people approach healing that same way. They just want the pretty, they want the perfect, they want the polish, they want the finished product. But what does it take to get to that finish? It's like a diamond, right? A diamond goes through a lot of pressure to become a beautiful, brilliant, shiny diamond. every relationship to be beautiful and shiny like that requires that effort and that work. And that's why it's so important that we show up for each other in an authentic, honest, and vulnerable way. And being vulnerable is so difficult. That's why vulnerability and forgiveness go hand in hand. They work in tandem.
So there's this, what I thought was a trite, might not be the right word, but the saying that I didn't know whether it was true or not, about if you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was. Are you saying that you agree with that?
In a sense, yes, because love is so freeing. It's a liberating space where whatever the dynamic is, whether it's mother-daughter, whether it's husband and wife, whether it's business partnerships too, like it's in a sense creating a container where I love you no matter how you show up, who you are, who you express yourself to be, who you need to be, what you need to experience. I accept all those aspects of yourself. I accept your shadow aspect, the difficult things. That when it's not that easy to love you some days because this is who you are. It's allowing people to grow and to breathe rather than to smother and to suffocate. So whenever we do that, if we feel like we're on the side where, for example, we're worried because our partner is going out and they work, for example, with a bunch of men, and every time they go out to business meetings, you're worried they're going to have an affair, they're going to cheat on you. But if you love that person and you have a good dynamic and there is trust in the relationship, you shouldn't worry about that. If you love your partner, you know your partner. If there's something happening outside of the relationship, it's because it's not being addressed within the relationship. And this is a very common situation that a lot of partnerships find themselves in. And
Sorry,
this is the same thing.
Say that again, if you could. If there's something happening out of
it's because we're not addressing it within the relationship. So if we're not, for example, like this is very common. Let's say we have a partner with a high sex drive. If they're having affairs with somebody else, it's because they're not expressing to their partner, hey, I need to be intimate with you more often. If that partner doesn't want to be more intimate, well, why? What's the issue? We need to create that opening, that space where we can be vulnerable and authentic and communicate and express what's happening. Because relationships are not exactly, once again, that happily ever after. Like it's work, it's showing up for each other every single day, and communication, communication, and communication. Talking that out. We don't talk enough.
And you're doing these workshops and a retreat on forgiveness. And we're going to, after the break, talk a little bit about that. And that sounds fascinating. But Dorothy, how'd you get into this line of business?
Well, as a Reiki practitioner in the beginning, as a yoga teacher, as a generational healer, as a spiritual embodiment coach, this is the stuff that people come and see me with the most. It's those dynamics, it's those relationships, the ones that they have with themselves, the ones that they have with those closest to them.
What is an embodiment coach?
I love embodiment. Embodiment is coming fully back into yourself and awakening everything within you that was dormant, suppressed, repressed, releasing what has taken up space and blocked you, kept you back from really moving forward in life and expressing who you came here to be. So I love what I do because I get to see people for real. I get to see the real person. And sometimes giving them that opportunity to be real, to be authentic, to be raw, to be vulnerable is already such a floodgate that initiates and activates so much for their healing work afterwards. That in itself is very liberating and healing, to allow someone to make you feel so safe to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged as the person that you show up as.
And do you work with...
I have people that come that are like lawyers, corporate, whatever. It doesn't matter what their title is. They have to put on a facade in their everyday life as whatever they do. In their relationships, often they're holding it together when inside they're falling apart. And usually they fall apart when they see me. And it's sad, it's beautiful, it's heavy, it's liberating. It's such an experience energetically to work with people in this way. And for the first time, they get to take off the mask, they take off the armor, they take a load off, they leave it all in that room with me, even in that first session.
Do you work with men and women or just women?
I do. And the interesting thing is I'm getting a lot more male clients. Even men are just at this point of they don't know how to show up as a male, as a masculine, as a partner in their, like, even the dynamics for the man is changing so much. And men are struggling to find their role, their identity in all of it in this very quickly shifting landscape. The world is changing really fast.
If people want to access your services, how do they do that?
So all of my offerings are, you can book online at DorothyKnightReiki.ca. I also post a lot of great content, information, and often a fun way too on my social media. So my Instagram handle is Dorothy Knight Coach. Facebook is just Dorothy Knight. And a lot of my stuff, all of my offerings are on the website. So
we're going to take a break for some messages. Come back in 2 minutes. I'm going to ask Dorothy Knight a little bit about what this forgiveness workshop or retreat are all about, what she actually does. How do you actually get to a state of forgiveness? Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm having, I think, an interesting and probably really important conversation for a lot of us tonight with Dorothy Knight, who is an embodiment coach and provides a lot of counseling and other services to people. And she's got this workshop that she's been posting about on social media about forgiveness and a retreat about forgiveness. And it comes back to a book that she commented about and posted about loving people that are difficult to love. Dorothy, if I came to your retreat or came to your workshop on forgiveness, what would actually happen? What would you do?
Oh, I love this question. So we just did the Freedom Through Forgiveness workshop, and I feel like it did so well. We had such a beautiful group, and the work that we did together was truly impactful. I'm pretty sure I'll be offering it again. And I do that with a beautiful friend of mine. Her name is Courtney, who's also in the same kind of space as myself. So just stay tuned for that. I'm sure we'll be posting another one really soon, and we'll be doing that around the GTA. What's coming up next is in April. So April 28th to 30th. This is a bit bigger. It's a more expansive container, let's call it. And it's called the Release Retreat. We're doing it in Wybridge, Ontario. Beautiful place, 90 minutes from the city. And I'm partnering with John Fortin, who runs the Power Yoga Canada in Etobicoke. So he's an amazing soul. We've got a really strong masculine energy, and myself, we're going to really work with each person on a very deep level. So not only will we be doing hard work, so we want to also give people the opportunity to breathe, to have space, to immerse themselves in nature. And beautiful facility. We're doing this at the Sugar Ridge Retreat Center, and that's in Wybridge. And yeah, the beautiful location, just the cabins, they're nestled in the forest. There's beautiful hiking trails. We're going to be fed delicious, home-cooked, organic, vegan meals. And the space itself where we'll be doing the work and connecting together is really lovely as well. So in this retreat, this is the retreat to unpack it all. And I love that we're syncing this up with the season of spring, because a lot of people are coming out of hibernation in a sense. And after winter, just even physically, we feel very sluggish, we feel heavy. And now, like, the days are getting longer and brighter here in Canada, we feel this sense and this calling to renewal. Just like regenerating, letting go, because we, like, even just spring cleaning our house, right? We just want to clear things, make space for new. And it's really important that if we take the time to clean our houses with spring cleaning, we have to clean house here ourselves. So it's maybe really coming into that space for some people for the first time ever. For some people, it's revisiting certain places and spaces, and those tight places and spaces, those nooks and crannies where we're still holding on to something. It's like dusting off the cobwebs and seeing what's left.
Okay, I understand your analogies, but how do you actually get into yourself the way you describe? How do you get into yourself and understand past trauma and past problems and all these issues that you're talking about?
So for most people, it's difficult to sit with it, to sit with themselves, to not necessarily even just sit in meditation, but just to sit with themselves. Because our thoughts take over so quickly, and those thoughts can swirl out of control. And especially if there's an emotional charge and energy attached to it, that's what often likes to take over. And it pulls us away from really drawing the wisdom from those emotions. Emotions are energy in motion. There's a charge to it, but where does that charge come from? There's a response within the physical body. So we have to sit with that. We have to really come into ourselves and locate those places and spaces in the body where we're holding on to either pain, trauma, those trigger timelines, inner child wounding, they all live somewhere in the body, sometimes in multiple places. So what I'm going to help people with, this is particularly the piece that I'll be working on with everyone, is cultivating a higher level of body awareness, tuning into the wisdom of the body. And then let's draw into that story. What's the real story that you've been carrying forward for so long? Is it true? Are you happy with it? Or do you want to write a better one? So the first part of what I'll be doing with everyone is just tuning into that story. It's a story you could have created yourself. It's a story that you bought into. It's a story that was passed down to you. Whatever it is, there's a narrative happening, and it's driving your current experience, your reality, your life right now. So again, physical body awareness. Everything's within the body. Body's really great because it's like a GPS system. So if we don't even know how to be in our bodies comfortably, we already know there's something out of alignment. So I want to bring everything into awareness. Then we're going to do the deep dive. We're going to work into the story. We're going to bring forth the aspects, and sometimes they're memories that we may have suppressed or repressed. This is the hardest part, is unpacking everything, unmasking the emotions, because this is where the emotions come. People want to cry. They want to be angry. They want to run and hide into the forest maybe, but I'll come get you, don't worry. So you're not doing this work alone. That's why it's nice to do this in the setting that we're doing it, because John and I are like, this is what we do. We hold space. We provide a sacred and safe space for you to go deeper, to have that self-inquiry, to sit with it, to dig a little bit deeper and explore what you didn't want to face maybe for a really long time.
But I apologize, Dorothy. I still don't understand how you do this. Do I just sit there? Do you ask me a ton of questions? Do we go through a 10-point question plan? Like, what is it?
Yeah, so it's a journey led by myself. There's definitely prompts and questions that bring you into those places. And then we bring up the belief systems that come around each story. So we're going to name it. We're going to say it aloud. We're going to write it down. We're going to work through it through the body. Maybe you need to go scream. Maybe you need to go cry. It's releasing the emotions as well. Then the second part is empowering our evolution. So we're going to bring in better belief systems. We're going to rewrite that narrative. And we're going to also do deep healing on a cellular level with me through the modality of generational healing, Ohana generational healing that I do. So I will be facilitating a group-led meditation that will take us into the body and do some energetic healing as well. So,
and this is all going to lead you to forgiveness?
It's going to help you, definitely. And this is the thing I want to clarify with forgiveness, because people have misconceptions around this as well, where, okay, I forgive them. It's good. I'm good. I'm moving on. No, that's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is a decision that you make every single day. You decide to forgive every single day. Because if someone's hurt you really deeply, that's not easy. Like I said in the beginning, forgiveness does not come naturally to us. It's like going to the gym. The best analogy I can give you, you have to flex your forgiveness muscles. You have to build strength and allowing yourself the compassion to forgive somebody. Forgiving is the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing in our nature. We're not designed to do it easily, effortlessly, but we get better at it because, like, through this workshop that we're doing, when we realize why we're angry, why we're holding on to that hurt for years sometimes, that's the stuff we want to visit. That's the stuff we want to be like, look, can you let go now? Can you loosen your grip a little bit? And I'm not promising everyone's just going to forgive everybody that ever hurt them in 3 days with us, but we'll give you the tools. We'll empower you with the awareness on how to do it in your everyday life when you continue to choose forgiveness every single day.
No, some people don't want to forgive because their lack of forgiveness defines who they are. They're mad at somebody, or they're mad at themselves, or they just never want to forgive because that's who they are, and they think it's impossible to get over that.
Yeah. They're probably not going to come to this retreat then. They're not going to want to do this work yet because they don't feel called to it yet. They don't feel ready. It's comforting. It's nice to buy into something that your ego can attach to and validate for you. It's easy to play the victim. That's the victim mindset, right? We want to project. We want to play, I'm going to blame you for my anger. You ruined my life. You did this to me. You hurt me. I'm in this situation because of you. And that's not true. This situation happened to you, but maybe it happened for you. What if you looked at that relationship? Maybe it wasn't a very healthy one. And now that this person's gone, you can figure out who you are. Maybe your needs are different. Maybe you can find somebody who can be with you and synchronistically meet those needs, and you flow better together. Maybe you've created space to finally do something because your partner wouldn't let you. They thought you were crazy to start a business or something, right? Like, always look at, now what can I gain from this current situation, and how can I shift from here in possibly a more positive sense? Like, misery loves company, and some people, that's the best part. We're going to stay here and live in this energy. But I'm sure your life is going to reflect that energy on a very profound level. So it's a choice that we make. We choose to forgive. We choose to move on. We choose to let go, and we choose to let love in. The more that we let love in, the more that we receive that love. And if we're closed off to it because of that pain and hurt, we'll never be open to receiving it.
Fascinating. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back with some concluding comments with Dorothy Knight. I'm going to ask her about this loving people that are difficult to love. Stay with us, everyone. Interesting chat. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Dorothy Knight, who is an embodiment coach, has been sharing with us about forgiveness and her workshops and retreats on forgiveness. And it's interesting. And you talk about how forgiveness is a muscle that needs to be strengthened, and you got to work on it every day. And that it's trauma or problems or issues or regrets that really aren't serving you anything, and you got to get over. And you got to forgive. And I think that's kind of interesting, because I think a lot of people actually dwell in their resentment and allow it to define themselves, even if it was something that happened, terrible, like a rape or an assault or something, 10, 20 years ago. They still harbor that to today. And so I think that what you're talking about is really interesting and very powerful. I got to come back, though, to this book that you referenced, and I guess it's part of forgiveness, but you referenced it as a very powerful book, and it was about loving people that are difficult to love.
Uh-huh.
How do you love people that are difficult to love? And should you love people that are difficult to love?
You should not have to do anything. Like I said, it's free will, and that's the universe that we operate in. So the only thing I can say is, with people that you find difficult to love, the question is to ask yourself, why is it so difficult to love this person? What does them being in my space make me feel that makes me so off put with receiving their energy, with wanting to express love for them? So we all have somebody in our family, somebody that we know that's probably that person. So that person, this is the best part I find in self-awareness, is the things that you really don't want to do, the places that you really don't want to be, are the places you need to be the most, because they offer the most opportunity for growth, for wisdom, and to move forward in your life. So if it's that person that's really difficult, what again is making it so difficult to love about them? Are they mirroring to you an aspect perhaps of yourself that you have not resolved? Maybe because they're so confident and successful, but you are not. And that pisses you off because you're probably capable of those very things within you, but you haven't owned that energy within yourself because of some story that you bought into. Maybe somebody told you your ideas were crazy and they crushed your spirits from even trying. That's an example. Or somebody's just so negative and just being around them just makes your heart rate go up and your blood pressure. Again, why? Why are they triggering that within you? Because anytime somebody triggers us and we get that physiological emotional charge, there's something within us that has a story. It's giving a reaction. When we are fully at peace with ourselves, we're doing our inner work, we're more self-aware, we're less likely to be so reactive. We're coming more into a space of power, which is in the present moment. And then we own our choices. We own how we respond to everything. There's a big difference between being reactive and responsive. And that's what I really help bring clients through on their journey is, yeah, you've been reactive for decades, but now you can be more responsive because you know better. You know why you feel this way. You know how to move through these emotions. You know how to tune into more higher vibrational emotions that keep you in a state of that unconditional love. So usually, again, if we're being triggered by somebody that's difficult to love, there are some kind of conditions. There's a contract, an unspoken contract between you two, where you don't accept each other as the way you are. You don't accept each other unconditionally.
Is unconditional love truly possible? I think everyone's got conditions, don't they?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. It's difficult to get to that place. And a lot of, we'll say mainstream spirituality is, you know, it's kind of like the hippie movement in the 60s, like all night in love and like we're somewhere else when everyday life still happens. And that's the thing. It's being in that love without drugs, without like being closed off in some community where it's easy to love people and be with people that, you know, mirror kind of who you are. I encourage people, like I said, to go to those places and to those relationships that are more difficult because you will really learn a lot about yourself and you will likely have an opportunity to strengthen, to repair, to reconcile that relationship. So even when I do generational healing with clients, for example, it opens the doors to the conversations that are needed to be had. And sometimes these conversations happen for the first time ever. And we're so blessed to be this generation that has a greater awareness, that is called to being more conscious of, well, why is everything the way it is? Why is this dynamic in our family? And a lot of people are those, we'll call them the generational breakers. I'm one of those people. I'm different from everybody in my family. I question everything. And in the process of my own self-awareness, asking the right questions, like going to my parents, going to my extended family, it has really repaired and strengthened relationships. And it's not like we suddenly all love each other, but we have, it's that unconditional love. It's like, you know what? You hurt me and I understand why. And I understand that that was an inherited trait from our family, like in generations and in our bloodline. Like some of these codes, it's in our DNA. It's very deep. This could be a whole other episode in itself.
We should do that. Dorothy, you are fascinating and inspiring. Thank you very much for telling us about forgiveness and about loving people that are difficult to love. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. And I invite you to join us on this powerful retreat, April 28th to the 30th this spring. Come release, let it go, and open yourself to life and to love and to all the possibility that lives inside of you. Thank you so much, Brian.
That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online, even from the retreat that you're going to at www.saga960am.ca. Thanks, Dorothy. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.